Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.
And on that note, let's begin. Tyler, the name that is yours, and Willows, the name that is mine. The episode that is 104 of the podcast that is Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast. That sounded like a alien that was trying to speak like a human.
You did great. Yep.
Thanks, I really appreciate that.
I love the new voice AIs. Where they
Oh,
have like
I sang that
Musk
playing Minecraft.
Minecraft against Joe Rogan.
Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan and the Joker.
Yeah.
Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent him this video of AI just replicating people's voices. So
Yeah.
it's like Joe Rogan being like, I'm a dwarf and I'm mining. That's what I do. And then it's like the Joker finds diamonds and he's like, I'm going to mine the diamonds. He's like, no, don't mine the diamonds. And then Jordan Peterson's like, it's my server. Like, I'll let it. And it's just, it's so perfect, right? Because they just know.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of great comedy that comes out of this shit.
Dude, and it's like, spider on the wall over there. And it's like,
Oh, nice boy.
how can you, like, all you have to do is take that AI voice, put it through some fucking multipass filters, add some static, and then claim it's a hot mic.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't know how anyone can believe anything anymore.
Yeah. And I don't know if we mentioned this in the last video, but there's another like video type AI that I think is going to be. Well, I think it's actually multiple different ones combined. One of them is in audio. Another one is it can basically remake a movie
Okay.
in a different language.
Okay.
So you run it through this system, and instead of like just overdubbing audio, it actually changes the face. So it retains the actor's voice and like inflections and tone.
Oh, but
Changes
that's
the
cool.
language, and then also changes their lips to match the actual language that they're speaking. So the overdub is seamless.
Yeah.
So
That's
you can't
that's
tell.
cool. That's really cool.
So you only have to make a movie in one language,
Yeah.
and you don't have the fucking overdubs and subtitles. Imagine if that, like, just that changes fucking movies. Like, if movies can be seamlessly shown in every language across the world.
Yeah. Because
without-
I think that puts a lot of people off watching foreign films. They don't want to
and it
read
just-
the subtitles. And
exactly, and some people just can't fucking read that well.
Stuff. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's incredible because there's like a lot of amazing movies that I really like to watch. Like, I've watched like a lot of European movies. Like, there's been like some really great like Dutch horror movies and random things like that. And it's just the subtitles and the overdubs never quite land as well as obviously the original actors.
Yeah,
voice.
of course. I would never watch a dubbed movie. I always watch with subtitles. Like I watch a fair amount of foreign films, and
with the original audio with subtitles.
yeah, of course. And it's it doesn't really bother me much, but I can read really quickly.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see like I follow me on Letterboxd, Letterboxd/VoteWillows, but I definitely read Letterboxd reviews where people were like, the acting looked fine to me, and then other people are like, this is shit acting because they speak the language.
Right.
Right? Because like if I was an actor and I was pronouncing things wrong and stuttering and shit over my words, you'd be like, this is shit.
Right.
But I have no context of like what even they're saying. So it's like it's hard for me to get like if I sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, this sounds like an actor reciting lines.
Right.
But I listen to, a South Korean film and I'm like, this doesn't sound like an actor reciting lines. This sounds like a language I don't understand.
Yeah.
Or even like understand the basis of, right? So there's definitely been times where I'm like, the acting was pretty good. Like they were pretty emotive. And then like I read the reviews for this movie and they're like, this was shit. They felt like they're fucking reading off a teleprompter. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's an interesting. The other AI tool I saw was it's for like TikTok videos and it keeps your eyes looking at the camera.
Yeah.
So that you can read a script without breaking eye contact.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, that's super cool. Or, if you're in university or something like that, like Carly's classes, she can get dinged like marks and have to do extra work if she's seen to be not looking into the or looking at the screen or paying attention for the entirety of the class. And during a 6-hour lecture, that can be kind of hard. So if you like look off to the side too often, like they can just be like, okay, you owe me another essay just because you looked away from the screen too long.
School is a scam.
Oh, certainly, yes.
I will never rescind on that. The higher education is a fucking scam. It gets
It's-
worse and worse the more I learn about it.
It's not without merits, but yes, you go ahead with that
Yeah,
assertion.
I will.
That's fine. It won't hurt you none.
So we survived our trip.
No, this isn't the real me.
We're coming from you from the afterlife.
This is my body double.
So Tyler and I went on a little jaunt to the east coast of Canada. For all of you American listeners, which 85% of our audience is, it's kind of north of the Maine area.
Yes.
Very similar to Maine as far as I know, with lobsters and rocks. Does Maine have rocks?
I'm assuming so.
I assume they have rocks. So we went to a place called New Scotia. That's what Nova Scotia stands for,
Great.
or whatever.
Where's the old one?
In England, right?
Scotia?
Or France.
Who cares?
Who cares, honestly? And it was fun. I don't know. You can speak to your experience, but we had a lot of beers were had,
A lot of beers.
and but we had some great lobster and oysters and prawns and scallops and fish and chips and did I mention beers? And we basically did everything, every level. Like we did like touristy outdoor looking at artifacts and forts and stuff.
Yeah.
We did like touristy museums. Then we did like local small owned businesses like a little pub or a little restaurant. We did fast food, not fast food, but like a donair place.
Yeah.
So like a takeout restaurant. We did nightclubs. We did house party, which was we won't even talk about. We met a musician who made us buy albums from her, physical albums, like in the bar. And I was hitting on her, and she took my phone and just started streaming her own Spotify songs. So like I respect the hustle.
Yep.
We met we met an Irish guy named Paul, and the only other Irish guy I know in the world is also named Paul. And I'm like, yeah, of course it's Irish Paul. But we went to like 30 breweries or something, and it was really fun. In 3 days.
It wasn't 30 breweries.
I
don't think they have that many.
You know what it was? They do have that many, number one. But you know what I think it was? What I wrote down? It was I had 30 different breweries beers.
Oh.
But we didn't go physically to 30 places.
No, we definitely had at least 30 beers.
Oh, we had way more than that.
No, how many did we end up hitting? It was...
I wrote them all down. It was more than 8, I would say.
Between 8 and 15.
Less than 15.
Yeah.
And we got everything on the menu every place we went.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. We got like a flight. Like I'd be like, "Do you have flights?" They're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "How many beers do you have on tap right now?" They're like 17. I'm like, "Okay, how many flights fit into that?" And most of the places, if they had like an odd number, they just threw on the extra beer for free.
Yeah.
They were really good about that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was pretty good.
yeah, we had
by the end of the day, I just like all the beer tasted the fucking same. Or I mean, like I could taste the differences, but like I like put a beer down and I forget what it tastes like.
Yeah. And we met up with my friend that lives there, and he doesn't party that hard. He's a hard worker, unlike us. And we meet him at a brewery, and I order one of everything and his face. And then me and Tyler just start taking random beers and we're sharing everything. And he's like, "We're just sharing all the beer." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like,
He wasn't real down for
and
it.
he like barely drank anything because he was like, "This is weird." And I'm like, we could not do this if you don't. He's like, "No, do your thing, man." But then he drove us up to some touristy stuff right on the coast. There's like this famous cove with this lighthouse and everything. So we went out there, and it was
gorgeous.
literally fucking 150-kilometer winds.
It wasn't literally 150. It was probably like 60, but
so which I think made it more fun, honestly. It was like that was a cool authentic experience.
Yeah, very visceral experience.
Yeah, which was like I don't get a lot. So we were there for like basically Thursday to Monday, like travel Thursday, travel Monday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday were like our full days there. So
yeah, and I got to spend Monday evening in Ottawa, which was also cool.
Yeah, because to save $100, you took a 17-hour layover on the way back.
It's $200.
Okay. You spent more time not being at your job. Like, you spent more money not being at your job than you saved.
I don't think so.
Either way, I think I had a pretty good time. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it was a good time. I want to go back very soon and go and do outdoorsy stuff that's not just drinking for 3 days.
That's 100% fair.
I want to go. They apparently got amazing hiking there, mountain biking, camping. I don't think I would venture out on the water by myself, obviously, but yeah, swim in the fucking ocean. Enjoy the summer. I want to go back to enjoy the boardwalk in the summertime. The beer gardens, the restaurants down there. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it looked really cool, but everything was. If you're listening from Futureland, it's mid-February when we went. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of the stuff on the ocean was closed for the season, so we didn't get to see everything. But it was a really good experience. It makes me hyper aware of how unwalkable Winnipeg is.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Like, so I want to talk briefly about this, and then I have another topic as well. But this 15-minute city thing.
Right.
Do you see these protests that are happening?
I saw one post about it, and I thought it was a joke.
So that's the one I sent, I think, that, had spelling errors. And I'm like, this has got to be a joke.
Yeah.
It's not, apparently.
Great.
So the COVID guys, the anti-COVID guys,
I figured that's who it was.
Yeah, the anti-vaccination guys, because now, as of this year, like Canada's not requiring vaccination for anything anymore.
So
they've dumped the app. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's over with. So they have nothing to complain about. More specifically, though, the grifters, the leaders of these groups, don't have any reason for people to listen to them anymore.
Right.
So they're making this new thing up, which is these 15-minute cities, they call them, which, if you're not familiar, is the idea that every single every single need that a human could want would be within 15-minute walking distance of your home.
Right.
That's what a 15-minute city is. So many European cities are already 15-minute cities. But part of, I guess, this Canada, I don't even know if we have an official thing about it, but I think like that's just something they want to strive for in Canada.
Yeah, it's just generally good for well-being of humans.
So our city is very not that.
15-minute drive, maybe.
Not even, right? Like, we are super spread out here. And it's like, if you, like, when we were in Halifax just this weekend, we went to, like, literally brewery on the corner, then beside it was a restaurant, beside it was a Irish pub, sharing a wall with an English pub, sharing a wall with another brewery.
Yeah.
Like, literally. And like, we would go in a place on like a Saturday night and it was too busy, so we would just walk out, go to the next door.
Yeah.
And we were on foot basically the entire time, and we just walked around, and it was good.
And almost everything was busy.
And yeah, and they're, half the size of the city that we live in.
Yeah.
And the city that we live in, there's maybe 3 bars that are cool for 1 million people.
If that, depending on which day of the week.
And most of them are chains.
Yeah.
And I said this to you, like, someone asked me, because they were trying to show their friend around Winnipeg. They're like, hey, well, I was like, you drink a lot. Like, what's your favorite bars in Winnipeg? And I'm like, the 2 bars that I spend the most time at are both chains.
Yeah.
Like, obviously owned by a local, like, franchise person, but, like, I'm like, shit, so I don't want to, like, recommend a chain. But I go to them because they're near my house or my office, and they have local beer, and so I like them. But I'm like, I'm not going to recommend a fucking chain restaurant to a person visiting, right?
So
then I start thinking about...
And for reference, most of the breweries here don't have restaurants.
Yeah, there's only a couple breweries in the city, 2, that have kitchens.
And they're not close.
And they're not close to each other at all.
No.
Or to where I live, right? So there's only... Yeah, and then most of the other breweries just have, like, snacks or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's fine and dandy, but you need to go somewhere to eat at some point, right? So I was thinking about, like, what bars that are, like, locally owned and run that have, like, craft beer selection and food, and I could think of, like, 3 that I like, and they're all downtown where there's no parking and it's sketchy. Right? So it's like... I was like, shit. And then that was before this trip. And then we go on this trip and I'm like, Jesus, like, there's just everything, right? Where like there was a couple places that we went where I'm like, I would be here every fucking day if it was like if it was this close to my house, right?
Yeah. Or if you could possibly have like an office in a space like that, it would be like great for after work stuff.
Yeah. So that was, but anyway, these protesters or whatever are, protesting 15-minute cities because they think you can't leave your 15-minute zone.
What?
So that's why they're protesting it, is because they think that you draw a circle, because like there was this map that they proposed of Winnipeg and divided it into 15-minute walkable zones.
Right.
And then somebody took this map. It was just like a map that like the City Works had like, hey, look what we could do, right?
Right.
And so someone took it and then said like RFID chip required to leave your zone. And like, so you're stuck in your zone. You can't have a car. And then that's the conspiracy now.
Brilliant.
So, yeah. So that's interesting. So, so someone unironically posted a poster that said protest against walkable cities.
Yeah.
Which is just like, what are we talking about? Right? Like, how could that possibly be bad? So what do you think about that? Like, what do you think? That
is a kind of an oxymoron, but I would call that a brilliant level of idiocy. That's impressive, honestly. Unsurprising, but impressive. I think, like, I guess people think that because of COVID, none of the like rights and freedoms that are like in our Constitution can be upheld anymore.
I guess so.
People believe that, which I mean, like, COVID didn't, like, there's emergency powers that were implemented that limited, I guess you could say, freedom of movement, right?
Yeah.
To a degree.
The argument was because they couldn't get on a plane, you were restricting our constitutional right for freedom of movement, but you were still allowed to go over provincial borders.
No, there was restrictions on provincial borders for a bit, remember?
Was there?
Briefly.
Did they really? Did they stop you from going over the border?
Yeah.
You
needed
vaguely remember them having a checkpoint at the Ontario border. Now that you mention it, yeah.
Yeah, it was short-lived because it's like
that's getting.
It's extremely detrimental to your like society and economy if you do that.
Yeah.
Like you could go across, but you needed like a reason.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because we were supposed to be at home.
Right.
I think it was less of a can't go to over the border. I think it was more of why are you leaving your house? You're not supposed to. Oh, no, you know what? Now you're jogging my memory. A bunch of Manitobans have cabins in Ontario in Lake of the Woods.
That was
couldn't go to them.
There was between even Manitoba and Saskatchewan there was two. Cuz I remember
what goes to Saskatchewan.
Well, one of my friends was coming to Manitoba and like she needed like a work reason in order to come over.
Okay. I do recall that.
But it was very brief, and it was obviously like they would not have been able to hold that line for very long.
Yeah.
Like if they tried to hold that for like 2 months, I don't think the compliance would be there. Like there would be a lot of fucking problems. There would be I don't think people would comply for very long, in short. But freedom of movement is like aggressively enforced. Like for example, for you Americans, this suck on it, but I hopped on a plane this last weekend with nothing but a driver's license, right? No passport, nothing required. That's familiar. And fucking weed in my backpack.
Yeah.
And they didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even like it was easy to smell. It was like easy to tell that it was there. And they're like not even didn't even take notice of it. I'm like, yeah, you just fly around with weed in my bag.
Yeah.
And it's like, and also I just need a driver's license. I don't need a passport. I don't need a visa. I don't need a reason.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing that can reasonably be done to prevent me from going anywhere. And also the fact that I didn't even need my ID to get into the airport. I only needed my ID to validate that I was the one that paid for the ticket.
You need your ID to get in the airport in the States?
I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, that's a part of freedom of movement, right? Like,
sure, yeah.
The ID comes into play just for the sake of, did you pay for this ticket?
Yeah, which is the same way, like, if I had a expensive event, I would make sure you had the ticket, right? To go to the event, right? Like, so.
Yeah, so there's no, they can't, the airlines can't really restrict your movement, and they're not really doing anything to do that. And it's like, these are all things that people just kind of take for granted. And then it's like, that's a big thing. That's me jumping on a plane, flying from here to there with like drugs in my bag.
Yeah.
You had liquor in your bag. Like
I had a knife.
Yeah, you had a knife, like all these things. And like, you can fly around and it's no fucking problem. And they're like, but they're going to go from that
to full 15-minute city.
15-minute walking radius RFID. Like,
Yeah.
most people don't work within that radius. The
Yeah.
economy would collapse on the first day.
That's, I guess, their criticism is that exactly that. Then you'd have to get a job within your... They're trying to own nothing and be happy. What is it? Yeah. They're trying to get us to that.
Okay.
That's the conspiracy.
Well, let me tell you, how awful would your life be if you didn't have to travel really far to work, travel really far to, like, if you didn't have to do any of those things, and, like, everything that you ever needed was immediately available to you?
If I got a pub down the block...
That sounds kind of
and
nice.
a strip club the other down the block, then we're good.
I mean, the only part of it that's not nice is, like, to be able to, like, go see new places and explore.
Which is, but then they just won't let you do what? Like, I don't get how anyone believes this.
Not
is
even
real.
China does that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody does that. No state can do that because no state would ever get away with it because the people would fucking revolt.
But the
like, there's not enough police.
Well, that's what I guess that's what the people are saying, is that we need to stand up.
We need to
against it.
defund the police.
Wait.
Is that what they're saying?
No.
They're saying it. Just
So,
not directly.
I also have a knife on my keys that I
Yeah.
just keep for like just a little utility knife, like a 4-inch knife. Not even, right? That's probably about 4 inches.
Total open with a handle.
Yeah, and
Blade's like 2.
I just use it for cutting packages and opening shit. Like, fucking, you've worked with us, Zach and I, before, like in production, constantly. Zach's like, let me see your knife, like all the time. So I just have it in my pocket all the time, 24/7. On the way, and they always look at it in the airport because it's a knife, obviously. But they have a little thing on the airport that says it's just a little diagram of how long the knife can be.
Yeah.
And they put it up against it, and then it's usually fine. On the way back, they didn't even look at it.
Yeah.
Both flights, they didn't even take it out. Like,
It's fine.
no one gave a shit. Like, on the way there, they measured it and didn't give me a hassle. I remember on the way to Mexico, they gave me a fucking huge hassle. This woman's like, must have been her first day, but she was just like waving it in my face, basically being like, you got a knife, you have a knife. And I'm like, yeah, it's under the limit. And I just kept repeating that. I'm like, yep, it's under the limit. Like, it's under the limit. And then she gets her manager over. Manager looks at me. He's like, you have a knife? I'm like, it's under the limit. He takes it from her, puts it to the thing, looks at her, is like, it's under the limit. She looks at me. She's like, it's under the limit. I'm like, yes, I know. I've been telling you that for 5 minutes. And then they walk over to Tyler, who I'm traveling with, and open his bag, and fuzzy handcuffs pop out.
At least they didn't find the other shit.
Which were mine, to be fair. Because
the knife and the fuzzy handcuffs are not related.
he sends me a text on Valentine's Day in the morning in 2018. No, probably 2020, right? Being like, hey, can I borrow those handcuffs you have? Because I know you're not going to use them on Valentine's Day. I don't think you were that mean about it, but that's basically what you were implying.
I know
you're
you were
not
single at the time.
Yeah, so I can't have a Valentine if I'm single? Tyler.
You would have told me about it.
I would have been
for sure.
bragging about it for months.
Especially if you were planning on using handcuffs.
That is a fair point. So let's transition here on that note into, what are we thinking? Spicy boy today?
Oh, spicy boy.
Today we are, remember this is the last of it. We are transforming here into the segment that we call Shot Caller, the part of the show where you, the audience, can pick the shot that we take. This shot is sponsored by Driftwood Brewery in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Thanks, Driftwood, for sponsoring this episode. IPAs at a great price. We're also shooting spicy, old smoky, fucking habanero, whatever.
That's such a big shot.
I overpoured. I couldn't see with the light.
That's like a solid gulp.
I wonder if we... I'll pour a half one when we take the second one. So I want to talk about one of our favorite topics, which is multi-level marketing schemes.
Ooh.
So there's this...
Finally.
I don't know if I should give them free clout. I guess I can now because they're closing their thing. Okay, so there's this multi-level
I don't know
marketing...
if this is going to count as free club.
There's this multi-level marketing company called Tiber River. And I didn't know they were based here, but apparently they're based here.
Yeah.
I thought they were bigger. Does this ever happen to you where you're like, oh, there's 18 Salisbury houses in Winnipeg. It must be a good big chain. And then you get a little bit older and you're like, oh, no, there's none outside of Winnipeg.
There's just 18 in Winnipeg, yeah.
That happens to me a few times where you're like, oh, yeah, that's local. Pick a Pop's another one. Like, you're just like, oh, yeah, right. Pizza Pops. Well, at least they have those other places, but those are made here. But anyway, so there's this multi-level marketing company, which Google that if you don't know. And if you Google it, you'll see the Wikipedia page. And you look at the Wikipedia page, and half the Wikipedia page is talking about how they're usually pyramid schemes.
Right.
So multi-level marketing is basically a pyramid scheme, but right on the cusp of being legal.
Right.
So the people, the distributors, the employees of the company have to pay to work there, essentially. And then they don't get a wage. They just get straight commissions for selling.
Yeah.
So if you do nothing, you're just paying monthly to the company to work there. But if you don't, the way they get around the law is that you buy products from them. Even though it's technically a forced buying products from them, technically that's not a membership fee, so technically it's not a pyramid scheme.
Right, and the way that companies typically go foul of the law is what they force people to buy too much of products that they couldn't reasonably use personally, and they call that product loading. Yeah. So if you break the line of product loading, then then usually you get smacked.
And Tyler,
if you're successful and offensive enough, but usually the government's pretty ineffective at cracking down on anything that's not like punching them in the face.
Yeah. So Tyler and I grew up with a lot of people that did MLMs, and so we've been very involved with we know exactly these type of people and this culture and the companies and et cetera, et cetera. We were very knowledgeable about the industry, and so there's this local one that is deciding to go non-MLM.
Right.
They're called Tiber River, and they sell soap or whatever, spa products, and they're deciding to go switch to retail. So they have a store on River Heights on Academy.
Isn't it don't they have like an actual spa as well?
They might.
Or two? I think they have like actual spas too.
So the reason why I'm talking about this is because my employee Wyatt, who does markets, is friends with this girl that just got interviewed in like a expose about them, which we're about to get into. So this is fresh in my mind. So they're like, hey, we're switching from being MLM. We're not gonna have distributors anymore. We're gonna go more legit, you would say, maybe. Mm-hmm. And that they're framing it as like a money saving thing. They're like, hey guys, recession, like we got to switch the business model to like online.
Because most MLM companies spend roughly 50% of the revenue on commissions.
Yeah, because that's the model.
Well, yeah, it also means you have massively inflated products, typically.
Costs. Yes.
Like the price of products is like double of what normal products of the same caliber cost.
Yeah, so they, in most cases, yeah. So they're switching to non-MLM, which is fine, I would say, is probably good. However, now they're deciding to not pay any of the commissions they owe to any of the reps
for the final month
or whatever. Or I think, and they're not reimbursing for product, like they're like anything.
No, they're reimbursing in 20% higher than the money they owe. Coupons. In product credit.
Yeah, in coupons.
Yeah. like in-store, instead of a paycheck, you're getting in-store credit.
Yeah, so which
is hilarious. Can you imagine getting in-store credit for a company that just fucked you over?
That's called a company store, where you can't spend your paycheck anywhere except the company, right?
Yeah, based.
So the article that
I think you need to take notes, Willows.
Yeah, the article that my employee sent me, who's they're interviewing this woman that he knows. The title of the article is like, I can't pay my rent with store credits for soap, right?
Yeah, I can't pay my rent with soap.
Yeah, so this is
based.
So what do you think about, like, how is this not a human labor violation, right?
I mean, do salespeople actually do labor?
Got him.
First of all. Second of all, I think they were like, we would like to pay you, but we don't have any money.
Yeah, but bullshit, right? Like,
no, it's entirely possible. Like, I don't know. I've been on the inside of some fucked up shit, and it's like the fact that they don't have enough money to pay commissions, entirely believable to me.
Then like go under with grace, right? I don't know.
I mean, or you just grift everybody.
Well, who's gonna shop there now after this?
Great question. It'll probably dry up like a fucking prune. Which, I mean, like, is that a testament to how effective MLM is? I don't know. But, like, if they're genuinely good products and they got distributorship elsewhere, like, one of the things I just like even sitting here and listening to you is like, with my experience in franchising, MLM is just franchising with
extra steps.
It's just a franchise without a big investment, with no money. It's like for people that don't have money, that want a franchise, you can do an MLM.
You know what?
Because a franchise is exactly like an MLM, except the only difference is it's way bigger numbers.
You know what
and your action is actually doing the business, not recruiting actively.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that one of the biggest?
Unless you have a master franchise agreement in which you're just.
Then we're talking.
Then you have a downline.
Then that's a whole thing. But like the whole act of recruiting in the company.
Yeah.
In any MLM, I'm not talking about Tiber River anymore, but any MLM, the whole emphasis is on recruiting.
Yeah.
Right. And you'll get more bonuses as you recruit more people under you.
Right.
So if you just wanted to be a commission salesperson for a company, I think that's called direct sales. That's different than MLM. That's fine.
Right.
I would say that's more of a reputable that is a business model, I would say.
Yeah, you have a craft and you sell shit.
That's
like,
yeah.
You can sell telecom contracts, alarm contracts, whatever.
You aren't going, which is I think very reasonable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like people that don't want to start their own brand or aren't. I mean, I was gonna say aren't capable of starting their own brand, but I mean that in a nice way.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that you like a lot of people don't want to do what I do.
Yeah.
And fucking start a brand from the ground up. It's hard. It's dumb. Don't do it.
They just want to sell.
They just want to sell, and that's fine. But doing it as like a commission thing, you have a better. You can be your own boss still. Technically, you can work your own hours, etc. Right?
You can make as little money as you want.
Yeah, but the emphasis on a lot of these MLM companies is on recruiting, and even if they don't say that it is true.
Because they make more money from recruits that are unsuccessful in sales.
Well, because 91% of recruits never make any money.
Because like they also gamify the sales program, because it's not just like you make a commission for every sale you make. No, they have like these complex compensation programs where it's like you need a left leg and a right leg.
Yeah.
And like if you don't have the proper balance of left and right, then you don't actually make commissions.
Yeah, you need to get this many points on each leg. And
right, exactly. So you have these types of compensation systems like where they like talk about how it's the new greatest best compensation whatever thing that's ever been.
You know what's great
invented.
Compensation? Selling a product and getting money for it.
Right, exactly.
is awesome.
Wow, fucking wild.
That's a new concept.
You're probably a scam artist.
Yeah,
with that kind of thinking. That sounds too good to be true.
True.
They're gamifying this in such a way where you're just completely distracting people from the fact that you're doing work for no money, which is incredible.
It's incredible. Well, because the people that
so then your entire customer base just becomes people that are trying.
And the people that I know that did MLM were very I lived in some of these houses, these grind houses we called them, right, with all these kids, like young 16 to 20-year-olds, and it was cultish.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, what I will say is the best shape of my life was when I lived in one of these houses in the basement on River Street.
You know, fascism is really good for your fitness.
That's the shirt of the week, guys. Buy fascism is great for your fitness shirts on.
Fascism is great for your health.
Yeah, because it was
there weren't any fat Hitler youth.
Because this was kind of before the whole Andrew Tate like masculine grifter. Like this was kind of before that. Like when we were in high school in the
way before
in the late 2000s.
This is Gary V time. This is early days Gary V and Grant Cardone.
So it was less like the masculine kind of thing. So like, but a lot of it was like you got to work out because like healthy body, healthy mind, thing, right? So like I remember sleeping on a fucking couch in my buddy's house and then getting up, we'd do like as many push-ups as you can do, as many sit-ups as you can do. We'd watch a 6-minute cult video and then go for a run in the park across the street, and then I'd bike to school.
I'm just, I just had this thought for the first time. Like, I'm just thinking about being like your neighbor and being like, there's like 11 teens that live next door, and they just run at 6:45 in the morning.
6:38, baby.
6:38 in the morning in the park across the street. I'd be like, oh no. Like, what are these kids up to? Like, made me really suspicious.
So I will also say that hanging out hanging out when my friend got into MLM, that's what got me thinking about business. I was a straight anarchist before then.
Right.
Like Zach and I, my business partner.
And now you're going back there.
But now I have a plan. but
you're back to being an anarchist.
My business partner Zach and I were political protesters. We actually camped out in a tent when we were 15 years old, across from the legislative buildings in Manitoba, and protested the government in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah.
And
what a good time.
And that was before. And then when I met these people, or when one of my best friends growing up, got involved in this MLM, and we started hanging out with those people, I was like, oh, I wasn't mad at rich people. I was mad at the government for rigging the system.
Right.
So that they could become rich, right?
But then you realized rich people are the ones that rig the government?
Well, yes and no, though. Like, I think, like, especially now, like, it's different. Like, it's not, I don't know. I think we don't have, I don't hate rich people.
We don't have kings and lords anymore. We just have powerful merchants that own politicians.
But then I think we've also, like, it's easier than ever for somebody to make like $1 million a year.
Yeah, but $1 million a year doesn't get you shit.
Well, it gets you anything you want, basically, but it just doesn't own politicians for you.
Right. No, what I'm thinking is, like, this guy that I know that has not only enough money that he gets presents every year from his airline and awards from foreign governments, but also has license plates that prevent local police and law enforcement from giving him any kind of ticket.
Which you can be mad at that system,
right,
that allows that. But I was like,
and he's not an old guy. He didn't like, I don't know if he started from scratch, but like, who gives a fuck about your $1 million if you can just give the middle finger to a local cop, and then like get accolades from a foreign government? Like, that's getting to the bottom level of people that control things.
Yeah, I guess, like, what I just realized, though, is that I didn't hate, and it's all semantics, right? Because I'm like, I thought I hated capitalism, then I thought I loved capitalism. Now I'm like, well, I hate capital. Like, it's all fucking semantics. Because I'm like, oh, capitalism is not the same as corporatism, right? Like, all this kind of, it's all fucking semantics.
The word, the labels and the words don't describe anything very well, and people get hung up in arguments over, like,
fucking
super simplified terms.
Yeah,
and it's one of the most effective things I've learned in the last month of all the drama in my personal life is just when somebody says something like, I hate capitalism. Okay, define that.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Define capitalism. Define what you hate.
And
break that down for me, and then you can have an intelligent discussion. But nobody goes that fucking far. Like, now you fucking commie. It's like, okay, define that.
Yeah.
Define commie, and how am I that?
People are always just like, I hate communism, and then describe capitalism.
Right.
So it's like,
or fascism,
but
typically.
When I was a political protester, I was just had a lot of displaced rage.
Yeah.
And then when I became interested in business, so I will say that I think MLM attracts people with a certain mindset. And you know what's funny is that everyone I knew from back then, like probably 24 people that were interested in MLM, either half of them are still doing MLM at 35 now, and it's like getting creepy,
and they're not making any money.
Bro, start a family.
Yeah. No more Sigma grind set for you.
Or the other half are wildly successful.
Yeah.
Like
entirely outside of.
And I won't name any of them because I think some of them don't want to be associated with doing MLMs in the past. But like one of them that you've met has like 200 rental units.
Yeah.
Right. One of them that you met has a very successful commercial HVAC business.
Yeah.
Right. And like with employees and, you know, like, and just like, oh yeah, $20,000 for a couple hours of my time to install fucking furnace on a mall, right? Like shit like that. You know, and some of them are wildly successful. And then some of them I still get Facebook messages from every so often being like, hey bro, I know you're busy and everything, but can you take a look at this website of it? You know, and it's just like, you know, it is what it is. Like, and it's like, I've said this before, what I'm about to say, and pissed a lot of people off, but I think there's a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur. And I think before you're incorporated and before you have your first employee, you're not a business owner.
Sure.
You're just...
But you could be an entrepreneur without those things.
Yeah. But you know, people that have an MLM company or like are a rep for an MLM company have entrepreneur and business owner in their bio. Show me the share certificate. Like, you're a glorified fucking sales rep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like so I don't know. That's kind of like an offensive line. I don't like to be that. Anyone who's trying in business, I respect.
Also, I wouldn't say glorified sales rep. I'd say you're a tick below a sales rep.
Well, because sales reps typically get minimum wage plus commissions.
You're treated better as an employee and a sales rep than as an MLM representative. Like, employees get, like you said, they get benefits, they get support, they get an infrastructure to work with, they get an office, they get resources.
The infrastructure is the
assistance,
biggest.
they get free training, they get all these things. But instead of like when you get into big companies, especially like Amway, you don't get training, you don't get resources. You have to pay for all that shit because the people that you're paying for seminars and for trainings and for all this stuff, newsflash, there's more money in the training and recruitment than there is in the products. So if you are paying money into that, you're paying into the primary economy of this business, which is training new dummies.
Well, and they always have their conventions twice a year.
Exactly.
You know, you fly out there and
they're very exciting. They're very fun. They make you feel like you've...
And then they
like,
set up merch tables.
Yeah.
And they sell you merch for your own company, right?
No, the best
You know what I do to my employees? I give them merch.
100%.
Because they work for me.
You know who else I give merch to? Literally anybody I work with.
Yeah.
Literally everybody and anybody. I'm like, you want a shirt? You want a shirt? You want a shirt? You want a sweater? You want a hat? And you just get free shit from everybody. Like all the contractors I work with, I was talking to this guy today, and I'm like, oh, you got DTL on your back? He's like, yeah, you work with DTL? I'm like, yeah. They're like in the next province over, and they just like build nice cabins, and we just both wear their shit, and it's like a free $200 jacket. It's like, yeah, here you go, bud. Thanks for your time today.
Dude, the amount of hats we have in the winery that are from like our grain supplier and like all this shit, like it's just
So if you're not getting that, it's a fucking scam. But my favorite part about the seminars is it's gaslighting at an industrial scale, where it's like if you
business-fied gaslighting.
Yeah, if you only work harder, you could achieve this. Like they'll cruise the, top 1% guy across the stage and look, he made $175,000 this week. And if you only just like tried a little bit harder and like use these script lines and like made a few more phone calls, you could do this too. But in reality, that guy probably was either offered his position
paid for
halfway through the system. This is an established thing. Like when MLMs start up, they leave empty spots at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
For established personalities, which they bring in. It's just like it's a compensation package for a brand ambassador. That's all it is. That person didn't earn their position. They earned they quote unquote they did earn their position because they have notoriety and fame and whatever. They got clout. But they didn't actually.
It's no different
make
than
them any sales. It's like it becomes fraud because they didn't achieve that position by doing the thing that they're telling you that they did.
Yeah, it's no different than you being offered a position on a board of directors for a company you don't know nothing about just
Right.
because you're fucking rich and famous, right? Like it
Right.
is what it is. It's a business tactic, but that is no. I would say that if they're not
Well, it's
open
not-
about that,
It's a business tactic, but it's also like it's fraud. 'Cause
well,
it's
depends how they pitch it, right?
they always pitch it wrong.
I agree.
Nobody pitches it honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think they're because they all. I remember always hearing the line like, if I would be like, well, doesn't everything I do just pay the person above me? How is that not a pyramid scheme? And the answer to that is always like, no, you can always earn more than the person that recruited you.
Right.
Never matters. Like, as long as you put in more work and get a bigger downline, you can always make more money than the person that then recruited you. But so if that's the line, if they're just plopping people in the top, that's not true then, right? Like,
Right. It's not. And also the fact that the system that enables you to earn more than the person above you is the exact system that gamifies and effectively robs you of commissions that you've earned. Because if you don't gamify the system effectively, as for example, if you are more effective than the person above you and you have a more balanced left, right, whatever, and that person isn't balanced left, right, that means you're being compensated for work that the person above you isn't being compensated for potentially, even though you're being told within that work, oh, you just got to get that one person that knows a lot of people, and that person's going to do a lot of work and find a lot of people, which means you're supposed to you're counting on getting compensated for work that you won't do.
and it's also
Which is exactly what they're telling you isn't going to happen to you, but is going to happen to the guy above you. Like it's this
Yeah.
superhero complex that the second you sit and think about it for a second, what do you call it? Like the main character syndrome.
main character syndrome.
Yeah, like you think that you're the one that's got this shit figured out, but in reality, they're just gaslighting everybody down the line to believing that they're just not doing it right, or they're not working hard enough, they didn't make this sale like they should have, yada yada yada. And it's not the system that's working against them, it's you that are the problem, which is just capitalism in a nutshell. But
Yeah, which is fine. But at least when you show up at your capitalist job and get oppressed, you're getting a paycheck every week. And
Yeah.
it's guaranteed, right?
yeah, there's better and worse things of the bad thing.
Just because something's worse doesn't make that good. But,
Yeah.
however, comma. So we're going to take one last half shot here because I poured a double shot last time. So on the show, if we take a shot that's under 40% alcohol, we always take a second one. But as we finish up here, is there anything that we talked about in the episode that now that you're drunk, you coming around on? Do you
Yeah,
like
so-
MLM now?
Yeah, so actually I'm totally down for MLMs.
You know,
Let's
I
start a new one.
well, I keep saying we would kill it as the grifter, but we just have morals.
Which means it wouldn't work.
Yeah, you gotta buy your own bullshit at a certain point, right?
I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Couldn't go back to it.
yeah.
Um,
Well, you've basically done it before. Not
yeah.
in the same way, but like you sold courses.
And sold franchises.
The franchises I don't mind as much.
Yeah, I've been in the shades of gray of the same idea, and the lessons I've learned from all of them were very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it all comes down to just because you can sell something to somebody and they're willing to pay you money for it doesn't make it an ethical transaction. That's a big lesson I learned.
Nothing's ethical under capitalism.
I wouldn't say that. That's
I don't believe that, but
that's like an extreme, very like absolute
Well,
way
like-
of looking at a very complex issue.
Here's what I'll say. I make wine, yeah? I crush grapes and ferment them, and I put them in a bottle, and it tastes pretty good. I sell it to a customer, and they say, what will this liquid do to me? And I say, well, it'll taste good on your taste buds, and it'll make you a little funny and make you a little feel good. And they say, okay, that's worth my $16. And they buy it from me, right? But a lot of the time, what you're selling in these companies or like in your courses or your franchise, it's like you're selling a way for them to earn more money that has all these conditions.
Yeah.
That like, well, you have to do this and you have to do this. It's like my transaction stops when they drink that wine. Like I sold them a bottle, they drink it. That's the end of the transaction, right? And sometimes we'll get complaints. Oh, I didn't like the wine, or that's a whole different issue. But I'm selling them a product that does what I advertise.
You're not selling them a product that's like, okay, if you buy this product,
You're going to be rich.
No. If you buy this product, it's going to be amazing. It'll be the best product you ever had. And you know what? Also, if you have the right mindset, this product will set you free. And if you wake up early enough and you work out enough and you healthy enough, this product will not only make you happy and set you free, but also you could build a legacy for your family.
Yeah.
But if you mistreat this product, it's your fault. And if you don't have a good legacy for your family and you're not successful, it's also really your fault, because there's nothing wrong with the product. It's just you. You just have to try harder. Like
if my customer had a bad mindset and drank the wine
and didn't like the wine,
or like didn't get drunk, like you know what I mean? Like it's like
if you didn't have a good time, obviously you didn't buy enough wine.
Yeah, what I'm advertising to you is exactly what you're getting. But what I'm trying to say is like when you're advertising a course or a franchise or whatever, it's like there's so many more steps in the transaction that it becomes like the more steps in the transaction, the sketchier it gets as a transaction.
Yeah.
Well,
yep, absolutely.
Cheers to that.
A general red flag for me is if you say, I guess this is a little bit different with retail. Maybe this is a bad premise. I was just going to say, if you find yourself saying yes to every sale or yes to every inquiry, there might be something wrong with your business model. But
Retail
I
is
guess
different.
Retail is different.
No, but here I'll bring it around and give you a good example though. In my business, we get asked to go to events constantly.
Right. Okay.
All the time.
Yeah.
Can we sample at my wedding? Can you sample at my? I'm having a fucking. I got one today, from. I don't want to be too specific because I don't want to, like, no disrespect to them, but I'm not gonna go to your fucking event. They were like, come to the Melville. Maybe I should have made up a name, but now I said it, so it's too late. But come to the Melville Spirits and Wine Sampling or whatever, right? So I Google Melville, Manitoba. Can't find anything. I'm like, what? And then I look at the email and it's like Melville whatever .sasktel.ca.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh no. And so is this podunk town in Saskatchewan, their Chamber of Commerce wanted me to come to this event. And like, thanks for asking. I can't transport liquor over provincial borders legally for the purpose of events. So I can't come, but honestly, I wasn't going to, even if I could legally. But so here's the thing. First 2 years of my operation, I said yes to every single event, every single email.
And for reference, this would have been no less than 5 hours of driving.
Probably 5 hours of driving. Yeah. One way.
Minimum.
One way. Yeah. No, there's no way it would have been worth it. But we, the first 2 years, every single email that came in the inbox, I said yes to. Every single one.
Right.
Which ended up me doing weird goddamn events, which got me a good and bad reputation in the industry. The people that respect me in the industry were like, I saw you everywhere.
Right.
You just showed up. Like some of the best friends I've made in the industry were just like, I had respect for you because you just showed the fuck up. And this is before I had employees. I just did it all myself every day.
Yeah.
Weird goddamn events. I went to an owl breeding place to sample that one time, and I have a picture, really cool picture of Bijou. I remember his name, this barn owl on top of one of my bottles. That was cool. Yeah, no, I've gone to weird goddamn events. And, but now I'm very choosy of what I do. And it needs to be worth it for us in less of an esoteric way, right? And so I'm pick and choose what I do. But, in MOM, there's no... Okay, good example is in a franchise. I'm trying to buy a McDonald's and open a McDonald's. They say, show me that you have $2 million in your bank account right now. And if I can't show them, they tell me to fuck off.
Yeah.
Or you try to open a Subway restaurant. It's like you have to make $100,000 a year personally, $100,000 a year personally, or they won't let you have it.
Right.
Because if it goes bad, you need to be able to keep it going, right?
And also, I think you're expected to. I know there's certain franchises, they won't let you like work a certain amount. Like
You personally?
yeah,
That's interesting. I
because
never heard that.
if you are expecting to run this business on your own, it's
Yeah.
not going to be successful.
Okay.
You need to have the money and the resources to be able to fund this business. If you yourself are dependent on the results of it, it's not going to be successful because it's like we know it's going to take 18 to 24 months to become profitable. And if you're fully dependent on the income of the business, it's
gonna
going
go
to
under.
drive you into debt.
Yeah.
So either you need to have a lot of cash
Yeah.
in order to allow that to happen, or you need to have fully independent resources that are adequate to support yourself and the business can support itself. Because
Yeah.
business cannot support itself and you.
So that's called qualifying your customers.
Right.
And
thing.
and MLM does not do that.
No, because it'll say yes to everyone.
Yeah. And
Everyone that can pay the amount.
and that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Because what I'm about to say is alleged. I think that reps for companies are taught to just get anyone they can. Like, even if they know they're not going to be successful in it,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to tell them, you know what, I don't think this is for you.
Right.
You're supposed to tell them, no, get in. We'll make it work.
So the only time I've ever been taught that in a job where you have to tell someone this isn't for you is it's a reverse psychology tactic in order to make someone feel as if they're inadequate to the extent that they feel that they need to purchase your product in order to become fully adequate.
Yeah.
Once again, to become whole. And that's like, that was like for years of my life. Like it may sound like I'm saying this like offhand, but for years of my life, I dealt with this moral internal battle of like, if I can sell this to someone, even though that I don't think maybe they need it, or that they say that they don't need it, but I sell it to them anyways because my powers of persuasion are stronger than their powers of resistance, and they purchase it and it goes poorly for them, it's their fault because they have the right resources. They chose to not follow through and do the right thing for themselves. That was my justification myself. Not you sold something to someone that shouldn't have purchased it.
Yeah.
Or you had no business using psychological manipulation and gaslighting in order to get somebody to lay out their life savings in a vulnerable situation to fuck themselves over. Like, no, that's their fault. That's not my fault.
Yeah.
If your failure rate is anywhere near half, maybe you're the one that's in the wrong.
Well, how many McDonald's franchises fail?
Not many.
Yeah.
But the bar is really fucking high.
To qualify.
The denial rate is way higher than the
Oh.
acceptance rate. If you're in a high pressure sales job where you have to convert, like what I was always taught about is like the bell curve of sales.
Yeah.
Where there's like on the left is like the super qualified and resistant, and on the right is like super unqualified and resistant. And then in the middle is like the easy sales. And the easy sales are the absolute minimum. That's like 5%. And then as it falls off to the left and the right, it gets harder and harder and harder. And if your job as a salesperson is to convert people that are extremely hard to convert, like the more hardcore your sales training is, the more of a red flag, honestly, it should show.
Yeah. Well, because I don't have to. I just pop up a tent and people come over to me to buy my shit.
You don't need NLP to sell your shit.
No, people walk over to my fucking. I flip my open sign on my store and people are sitting on my porch waiting to buy my shit, right? Like,
I use NLP in my day-to-day job to make my life easier.
Which, for the listeners at home?
Neuro-linguistic programming. It's like suggestive language.
Yeah.
And it's like giving the answers in your statements and questions. I don't know, look into it. Fucking Google it for yourself.
I've heard people argue that is psychological manipulation.
What isn't?
Good, fair point.
But me using NLP to help a homeowner not freak out, because you know what homeowners do? They freak out all the time. It's like people having weddings. They lose their goddamn minds because there's so much pressure and anxiety around this moment and this thing that they cannot function properly. Me using my powers of persuasion to either convince someone to do something or not to do something, and it's because of I'm in a very limited scope. It's like I'm usually trying to convince them to do the thing that's either the right thing or the wrong thing, in my genuine opinion as like an expert.
So
and it's like they've got a stupid opinion, and I got to work them out of it, or they're freaked out about something that's not a big deal, and I got to talk them out of it, and I'll use my powers of persuasion for that. Like, that's fine. It's good at being good at. There's nothing wrong with being good at your job, but if I was using that to sell them something that they're certainly going to regret in 6 months.
Well, so here's another litmus test as well. After you deal with customers being difficult, do they thank you after the work's done?
Always.
Right? And same with me.
Do you get the reference? Yes.
Yeah. Same with me, right?
Like, yeah, I manhandled this client recently.
Yeah.
Like, really difficult person. And I was, like, super assertive. They were being very aggressive, and I fucking turned on the highest level of, like, I'm going to play this fuck you no negotiation game with you. And I just played it on the hardest level that I could. And at the end of it, they're like, we're so happy with everything you did. Like, we're honestly, I'm like, we're impressed. We've been telling all our friends about it. Like, they were like at peace at the end of it, and they were happy. But in the middle, they're fucking crazy people, because they just, for one, were spending this crazy amount of money to get what they wanted. And number two, they're used to getting what they wanted, so they'll just do anything to get it. And yeah, I don't know, I just handled the situation in a way that allowed the right outcome to happen. But I could have also used that to rob them blind. It's like, the tools are not the problem. It's what the fuck you're using it for.
So what you're saying is NLP doesn't kill people, guns kill... Oh, wait.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, long story short, that's basically it. Like,
I guess, like, I always talk about the Carney method of business, where you, if you have to pick up and move your business model, or you have to, like, every 3 months you have to pick up and leave where people don't know you anymore, or a big one for businesses is you have to change your branding.
Right.
Happens in nightclubs all the time. One person gets roofied and it gets in the news, or one person gets shot. They change their fucking name, but it's the same ownership. Seminars as well. If you have to keep changing your business name, probably not the Carney method, I call it.
Same goes for MLM representatives. That switch companies. Occasionally, people find a fit that fits.
Yeah.
Good for you. You sell a good product people want to buy. Fine.
Yeah.
I'm all for...
I'm not going to hate anyone's hustle.
I'm all for being a rep of a company that sells products that people want to buy and are willing to pay the prices that they ask.
I'm just insulted when people call those people business owners.
Yeah.
As a business owner.
Yeah.
And I also...
Yeah, running a business ain't that.
Because I'm also, like, kind of on the train of, like, in my famous dupers and doopies belief system, like, if someone consents to buying something, fuck off, right? Yeah. And especially if, like, I know people are manipulated and tricked and whatnot, but, like, if you honestly think you can become a business owner and be rich by buying, it's like, it's a fucking tough, like, did you think it would be easy? Maybe you were sold that it was easy, but it's tough. Like, I don't know who anyone, or I don't know why anyone would be like, I'm going to start this business for, $642.99 to buy my my silver level builder pack, and I'm gonna start this business and it's gonna be so easy. Like, fuck off. Starting a business isn't easy, and if that's how MLM's framing it, that it's easy, that's a red flag, right? Because I think most people know businesses aren't easy to do. That's why people don't do them.
But people also have the main character syndrome, where they think they found something that's special.
Yeah. And they're different. Everyone else just wasn't.
And it's usually the people that are learning about
and
money for the first time, the reality of money, the reality of politics, the reality of whatever.
Well, I guess it was like...
And everything, there's all this newness, and you feel like you have an inside edge.
Yeah. Just
because it's new.
When I guess I'm thankful in a way that I was 15 years old when I started meeting these people.
Right.
So I had time, by the time I was 18, I had grown out of it
Right.
and been like, I should start an actual business.
Well, but what if you find that when you're 35,
That's what I mean. Is like,
your growth rate's a lot slower,
yeah.
and your ability to admit that you're wrong maybe never developed. And that's really what a lot of this goes into. It's the sunk cost fallacy. People's, especially with an MLM, people will sink all of their social capital and social equity into doing something like this, and if they admit to themselves
that they were wrong,
that everything in their mind, everything's gonna blow up in your face.
There's that Herbalife documentary where they just open their garage and it's just filled with fucking Herbalife products.
Yeah.
And they're like, I've spent so much money that I can't just stop.
Right.
Like, and then, yeah, that's the thing too, is like you convince your friends and family to get involved, and then your parents or your husband or whoever calls you a fucking idiot, and you have to argue with them and convince them that you're doing something right.
Because you convince, that's the bastard of it. You convince enough people around you that everyone knows, and that you got a lot of people committed and invested, that it really matters, but not enough that you can make a business out of it.
Yeah, they're not buying your shit. So.
Well, even if they are all buying your shit,
it
equals $300 a month.
Yeah. And I guess like...
And everyone's bought in, and so are you.
Yeah.
But it's not enough, and all you gotta do is double down or admit that you're wrong. You're not gonna admit that you're fucking wrong.
Yeah. Because
then everything you have, it goes away.
Yeah. Well, and then you lose your credibility, and you lose respect of people, and et cetera, et cetera.
It's incredible.
And for a lot of these
it's incredibly
people,
fucking devious.
I know. I forget what it's called, but there's this Herbalife documentary I watched a couple years ago, like during COVID. The COVID lockdown part where you were just watching Netflix.
Right.
And I remember they were saying it's like...
Is it over?
COVID lockdowns? We haven't left.
The Netflix part.
Yeah, because I can't use my mom's account anymore. So,
can you imagine if they did that during the lockdown?
Oh, we would.
There would have been riots.
Yeah. So
there would have been riots.
But I remember this one woman was saying like, all my friends are Herbalife distributors.
Yeah.
And if I leave, I have no friends anymore.
Right.
Like I've cut off everyone in my life because they're telling me they're negative fucking people, and I should just hang out with these people. So it's like a cult in a lot of ways.
It's like being a cop.
Oh no.
Literally, they tell you that in the police academy. All your friends will be cops. All your friends should be cops, because if they're not cops, they won't understand you. And then if you ever want to stand against the culture, if you want to stand against the institution, not only do you lose your job, you lose everything.
Yeah.
You lose your identity, you lose your community, you lose respect, you lose years of your life, and then you get prosecuted. All of that.
And I also I think that's why a lot of MLM people, if they quit their MLM, they jump to another one.
Right.
Because they just spent years saying, you fucking brokies have a job. Jobs are scams. This is the new way that people are companies are advertising.
It's like jumping out of a Southern Baptist Kurt? I'm getting a little drunky poo. It's like jumping out of a Southern Baptist church into a hippie cult.
Yeah. But because the problem is a lot of these MLM people, when I knew them, would basically anyone with a job you would call deceive, part of the matrix and deceived and idiots, and they're like they haven't woken up yet. And then it's like for you to go get a job after that,
right?
It's insulting, right?
Yeah.
I remember
it's really fucking genius marketing is what it is.
I have a brochure I remember from somewhere that's this quote from this guy that says it's Bob Proctor. He was like a kind of grifter.
Love Bob Proctor.
Yeah.
I have a book signed by him.
Is he all right? Was he a grifter? He's dead now, but was he a grifter? Or was he actually just a motivational speaker type, I think.
He's a motivational speaker that worked primarily with grifters.
Yeah, so he had a quote that was like...
so call what you want.
I work full-time on my job and part-time on my fortune.
Right.
And that's what MLM people always said to say if they're like, well, why do you still have a job?
Right.
If you're making so much money with this. I work full-time on my job and part-time on my fortune.
That sounds like not Bob Proctor.
It was Bob Proctor. 100%. I could hear his voice in my head.
I can hear the voice too, but I thought it was the guy before him. It was the guy
Jim Rohn?
Jim Rohn. That's what I'm thinking of. Jim Rohn. I think it's Jim Rohn.
Was it Bob Proctor quoting Jim Rohn?
Probably.
Okay.
Rohn was the OG.
I have a Jim Rohn book.
OG. Yeah, he was good. He's good
Yeah.
shit. But yeah, phenomenal propagandist.
He could have been a Nazi. I have
All of these guys.
I have nothing to substantiate that, but just like based on the timeline when they were alive.
Yeah, probably.
We're gonna end it on that note. I think like the main, now that I'm drunk, is though, like, I think we should go and join Herbalife. No, you know what? We should find I was just gonna make a joke and say we should join a liquor one. There actually is. It's called Direct Sellers. CELLARS.
Wow.
And they sell wine.
Love it.
Yeah, and it's illegal in Canada.
Perfect.
And this guy was trying to get me. He's like, "You love wine. You should get on this thing." And it's not legal here, but.
And you're like, I have more wine than I could ever want.
That's what I was saying. So that's dumb, but it's good because it's like a wine club, but an MOM. Basically, essentially, that's your auto ship, is your wine club shipment.
I can get on board with that.
That's what I'm saying. So let's join the wine club MLM.
It's like product loading is just now alcoholism.
If you want to join a wine club that's not an MLM, shrug.com/club. You can join our wine club. You get exclusive and small batch wines from Winnipeg's only winery. That's shrug.com shrugdoc.com/club for more information.
And no extra salesman commissions and markups.
You'll just be paying
government markups.
You'll just be paying for my rent. I really appreciate that. This has been episode 104 of Alcohol Beyond This Point. This is Willows. That is me.
And this is Tyler. We finally discussed fucking MLMs on 104.
Yeah.
We've been flirting this one for a while.
There's way more I want to get into, but this is something near and dear to our hearts. So we will see you next time when we listen to a Larry.
The tomato? No, Larry the cucumber. Bob's the tomato.
Bob the tomato?
Bob the tomato.
Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.